we've got it all kind of wrapped up in one big program, and it is underway. And we'll be keeping up news releases to keep everyone informed of how we are doing as we go along.
I'd like to introduce Pat Power, the president of Arctic Star, an old-time, long-term friend of mine, of my family, actually. And Pat, maybe you could just say hello or whatever you want to say.
Just want to welcome everybody for joining us today. And Buddy and I hopefully will give you a really good understanding of what the company's up to right now. We've just launched probably our biggest program ever in the territories, our 2022 program, which is going to be very comprehensive in geophysics, both airborne and ground, and follow up on one of our big discoveries last year in the Sequoia pipe. And we will be doing further exploration. So we've got it all kind of wrapped up in one big program, and it is underway. And we'll be keeping up news releases to keep everyone informed of how we are doing as we go along. And the person who's really responsible for the concept of what we're doing up there and who has been extremely successful in the past in that neighborhood is my good friend and Dave's good friend, Buddy Doyle, who kind of cut his tooth in Canada, I guess, with Rio Tinto back in the 90s when he took that company to the Diagras mine, and along with Abra, their joint venture partner. And I think we are well on our way to trying to reproduce that right now. So we're excited about what we're doing. Buddy will lead you down we're going to go through our PowerPoint, which describes, we can describe what we're doing in the field right now and what we're going to be doing in the field over the next 2.5 to 3 months. So with that in mind, we'll just pass you over to Buddy Doyle, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, hi everyone. Probably best I just put you through the presentation we've
No, he's fine.
We've prepared. Come on in. Probably the best way to do it, and then we can ask questions and during and after.
Should be able to see it.
Yeah. So Arctic Star's been going since
2002.
2002. I joined 2004, so we're survivors, and we've been at this junior diamond exploration game for a long time. Now, I've got to say, this is the best position we've been in those years. We've got 2 great projects.
And we should also comment on the fact that since we've been doing this, we've never had a diamond market quite like it is right now.
Part of the presentation. Yeah, so that's the usual cautionary statement. So yeah, we have 3 projects. Diagras is by far our most important one. It's a joint venture, 81.5% Arctic, 18.5% Margaret Lake. And it's what I'll talk about most. Timantti, which is Finnish for diamond, is our diamond project in Finland near the town of Kuusamo. We found several kimberlites there. Everyone's been diamondiferous, and we're still very excited about that project. The pandemic sort of interrupted that, but we intend to get back. And then finally, we optioned out the Stein project. It's on the Boothia Peninsula and Nunavut up in the Arctic Ocean. Beautiful diamond indicator minerals of great chemistry leading to mag anomalies drill ready. Hopefully that gets done this summer or the coming year. GGL earned 60% by intersecting the first kimberlite, then it becomes a 60-40 joint venture. Next slide is me. So yeah, Pat already mentioned it. Right now, diamonds are at historic highs, and because 40% of the diamonds from Russia, 40% of the world's diamonds by value come out of Russia. I'm sure that's going to be sustained, but it was already there before the current conflict. Why is it record diamond prices or a massive comeback to the market after the pandemic? And also we saw mines, large mines like Argyle, shut down for good, which used to provide 25% of the world's rough diamonds by carats. So yeah, there's a supplies come down and demands come back. So that's a great environment to be exploring in.
And we don't, just a side note to that, we have very few competitors doing what we do now. And that will ultimately help us in our quest to do this, because the supply is getting very tight.
Well,
and we're one of the few people.
For junior diamond explorers, 2008 was the great filter, and very few survived past 2008. There's only from hundreds to half a dozen now globally, diamond explorers, and I would argue we have one of the few with actual diamondiferous kimberlites found, and moving them ahead. Interesting enough to take them to the next level. If anyone's interested, Bain & Co., Mick Romney's company, publish a yearly diamond review, which is quite good. And if you can read the small writing, Paul Zimtu has a website where he tracks the diamond price. They're both very good information sources. So yeah, this is Zimtu's Global Rough Diamond Index, now a little bit old, but you can see the rebound in the diamond price in those charts, and that's only gotten better since January. So we'll now focus in on our main project, Diagras. It's in the Lac de Gras kimberlite field, which has been one of the world's most prolific kimberlite fields, sustaining two production plants, Akadi and Divik, circled there in purple. Those mines have been producing $500 million to $1 billion worth of diamonds each for the last 20 years. So yeah, the very world standard prolific kimberlite field with over 220 diamonds. You can see our area in blue and yellow. The yellow recently staked claims of last year, and the blue were our original claims. De Beers had that ground, and I ran the team that found Divik, and I was there till Divik opened, so I was there for the evaluation and feasibility study, etc. And we found Divik, so we kept getting funded. Unfortunately for De Beers, they didn't find an economic kimberlite in the Diagras property, so they lost funding. So we were able to keep finding mines as long as kimberlites, as long as we were funded. And for example, at the Akadi mine on the border claims, news release that they'd found 10 new kimberlites last year. So it's still possible to find kimberlites there if you're funded. So that was the first premise for going back to where De Beers had been. When I was still a Rio Tinto, we staked some of that ground in their old Hardy Lake property. And in the first effort, we found a kimberlite called PL01. So that to me showed that you could find more kimberlites where a poorly funded major had been. So that was sort of the second criteria I had for going back. And the third criteria, we have the most recent example of Kennedy Lake, going back to the Calvin magnetic anomaly dike, and then finding a much higher grade non-magnetic EM and gravity anomaly kimberlite right next door to the magnetic dike. that had much higher grades. So it shows that kimberlites, the old idea that a kimberlite is a carrot-shaped pipe is very valid, but they're not all that way. And each eruptive event can create a different shape. And so the third criteria is going back and looking for non-magnetic eruptive events near where they found magnetic kimberlites. And it's worked. We proved that last year. We found 4 new kimberlites. Before I leave this slide, just to explain that economic trend, the purple, all the green dots are known kimberlites, and the purple ones are ones that are in mine plans. And you can see they form a sort of a corridor on the Diavik thing. And there's a second corridor around Akadi, but it's a Diavik corridor. You can see goes into the southwestern corner of our property. And the red dot there is the first red dot you see at the edge of that corridor is our main discovery from last year, Sequoia. And the other red dots are the discoveries we made last year on our property there. Next slide is just an idea where we're at as in reference to the infrastructure up there. Diavik is 32 k's away, Akadi 34. And you can clearly see where I've written the 27 kilometers, the road to the Misery pipe. So, it shows that if you've got the right economics, you can sustain a road to those production centers. Also interestingly, the winter road goes through the edge of our property, and Sequoia is about 8 k's from the winter road. So yeah, for what's up there, the infrastructure is fantastic. It would seem to make sense that if we do have a positive result up here, that we would approach Diavik or Akadi to get our kimberlite processed rather than building our own. But that's ahead of us. So yeah, Sequoia, the idea, the pipe that was near Sequoia that De Beers announced was called Jack Pine, and we think it's part of makes the southern end of the Sequoia complex. But we think Sequoia is totally different to what was found at Jack Pine, and you can see that by the diamond content. Look at the last column. We're getting 100 stones per 100 kilograms, and Jack Pine was about half that. So there's a clearly much stronger diamond count. And, for less sample, we were starting to get larger stones where none were reported from Jack Pine. So we think this is this is just something that wasn't recognized, that it wasn't a clear carrot shape. It was a kilometer long by 200 meter wide, as defined by 250 meter wide, as defined by gravity, long kimberlite complex, not a simple pipe.
Yeah, just to add on, buddy, we've had this chemistry looked at by Fipke, and he, you may want to explain the chemistry part of that. What
Yeah,
it
I think
actually
it comes up,
expresses.
I think. If it doesn't, I'll definitely bring it up. Yeah, so this kimberlite pipe, or complex, I prefer to say, it is one of the largest footprints in the Diagras field. I would say the field's more famous for small, high grade, high price, beautiful pipes rather than big, large, lower grade pipes that you might find in Botswana. The green curve there is our result, and the blue curve is the Jack Pine result, again showing a difference in the diamond population. I like to get enough data where you can see the green curve is still, for want of a better word, wobbly. If you tend, as you build more data, that curve smooths out. And to really explain this curve, you look at the bottom, it's the size of the diamonds by carat weight. And you look at the y-axis, it's the number of stones per ton on the side. And so obviously, the higher the curve is in the graph, the higher grade it's going to be. And the less steep the curve, the more flat the curve is, the more big stones per ton you're going to get. The red and blue lines are my current prediction of where that curve will go as you get bigger sample and get an expression of the bigger stones that will occur in this pipe. The blue is a pessimistic view, and the red is just a straight polynomial equation for that curve projected out. You let Excel work out the polynomial equation and you project that into bigger stone space. So, the grade between those two, the variance between those two curves is 0.2 and a bit for the blue curve and 0.7 and a bit, 0.72 for the top curve. Quoting 2 decimal places probably too much, 0.7, 0.2. So the next round of drilling is designed to, one, show that how big this pipe is, because we've only got 2 holes into a kilometre-long anomaly. And we already know there's variable geology, which may have variable grade. So define the variable geology and give us a first view of the size of the pipe in tons. It will need more work to define all those better, but it gives us the first view, and the results will tell us whether to proceed to the next stage, which would be bulk sampling and to get price. And to get the 3 things you need to know to make a diamond mine economic, and I'll address them in the next slide. Coming up. Yeah, so there's a view of the geophysics over the pipe. The black dots are where De Beers drilled before as per their assessment reports. And we also it's not necessarily true that De Beers released all the results and made them public, but we've made best efforts to figure out what was done. And we also, the main effort there was going to land use, which is a public database, and every drill hole has to be registered in that public database. So we went to land use, found the location of the drill holes, been in the field looking for the collars, and that's our best bet of what has been done in the past. So as far as we know, where our 2 red dots are on that screen has never been tested before, and the diamond results sort of bring that home, being much better than what's been released before. So while we're on this slide, the geophysics is an EM, airborne EM on the top, showing the EM anomaly over Sequoia. And there are 2 similar targets in that image, which we will do ground EM commencing this week over, and if they look good on the ground, they will be drilled. And you can see the mag expression of Sequoia, and you can see a new target there in the mag. So we've recently, the most recent work we've done is do the first phase of flying the whole property at 75 metre using Resolve. Resolve was a system designed by Accardi to light up lactogrite kimberlite. So that's why we're using it. And yeah, that we are seeing new targets, which we can't wait to drill. And the drill will be mobilizing shortly. Next slide. Again, just showing the expression of the geophysical expression of Sequoia. The second slide there shows a 50-meter depth slice using on-map. The red blob beneath our bottom red dot there hasn't been tested by us yet. And there's the space between our 2 red dots is 220 meters. So we sort of plan to drill 100-meter holes first and go drill in the center and drill east and west to find the edges. And we'll get as much as that done as the weather and budget permits. There's that idea. each of those orange centers will have 3 holes. What is economic up there? This is a table of data from 43-101s. They're decade old, so the diamond price has gone up substantially since then. So I would argue these are probably conservative diamond prices. But you can see the kimberlites being mined in the lactograph field vary in price from 84 bucks being the lowest to 400 or 500 from Israel there. So that's the range of kimberlites there, and you can see so I was looking at dollars per ton there, forgive me. Dollars per carat, that makes more sense. Dollars per carat, 74 is the lowest I can see there for J, and 400 for koala. So I jumped ahead of myself there. What really makes a kimberlite mine economic is, like every other mine, is how much is the dollars per ton worth, and how much extra you're making. So the difference between the cost of mining. So you can see Fox is mineable at 84. So let's say $80 is where we want to be. Let's give Sequoia half a carat a ton. It needs to be better than $160 plus for price of its diamonds to be interesting. If it's like one of the best pipes there, like koala, it's very interesting. If it's the same as J, probably can't mine it. So that's what's before us. We have to define the pipe size and figure out the price and the grade distribution. And that costs money and time, but it's a good problem to have. It's not a problem, it's a joy. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
One of the curiosities about Sequoia's diamonds, as we've gotten strangely enough, clear white diamonds.
Yeah, so there's 2 outside lines of evidence that suggests that we might have good diamonds there, but until you take that large bulk sample, you don't know for sure. But it's nice to have these curiosities. I was involved with over 100 kimberlite discoveries in this field, and this is the first time I've seen all the microdiamonds described as clear and white in color. For example, A154 South was about 40%, 30% clear, and the rest were described as gray or bought or brown. So this is the first time I've seen all the microdiamonds described as clear. If that transfers into the bigger stones, that's very encouraging. And then there's been work coming out in the literature since about 2018 showing that the really prized big stones from all around the world are coming from greater than 50 carat white stones coming from all around the world seem to be all coming from great depth. And how they get from that great depth to the surface is a bit of a mystery, but that when they look at the indicators, at the inclusions in those very big, greater than 50 carat stones, they get high pressure minerals. And Chuck has reported, Chuck Fibke has got the data from 15 of those pipes that produce those high value stones, and he's created a dollar DI index if you've got that similar chemistry. And he processed a 15 kilogram piece of kimberlite from Sequoia from 2 different places, and reported back to us that this is the most DI dollar indicators from by weight that he's ever seen from that 15 kimberlite database. So we just have to wait and see if that transfers into the larger stones, but it does give us encouragement. Yeah, so again, it's on this site. the same idea as a summary slide of what I've been just talking about, where Sequoia might fit in the scheme of things. And yeah, so if we've got average stones from Lac de Gras, it's interesting. If we've got some of the above average stones, it's stellar. And if we've got the worst stones, it's no good. Yeah, so I knew I had a summary slide of what we've been talking about. There it is. And we know Lac de Gras does have some of these big gems. And there's an example from Bacardi. Diagras had similar examples. So they do exist in this field. So that's really sums up, just to sum up our Diagras project. We are mobilizing as we speak. We're phase 2 of the phase 1 of the airborne survey picked out 12 really convincing geophysical anomalies that look like kimberlites. You know, as I said, I found 100 kimberlites up there. It looks like those sort of signatures. We've got over 38 could-bes on top of that.
And that's with 40.
And that's just 46% of the survey flowing. We have no reason to suspect that we won't get similar numbers from flying the rest. So that's underway. We have ground geophysical crews, so we'll go to some of those anomalies and do ground geophysics over them, make sure we've got them in exactly the right place, and then the drill comes in and drills. To give the ground crew a bit of a head start, we'll start drilling around Sequoia first. But once we have some geophysical anomalies, we'll move on to exploration.
Yeah.
And then flick back to Sequoia near the end. Sequoia is not far from our camp, so it's a nice, safe place to be. Yeah, I won't. And then, so, you know, ideally we'll get about 10 holes into Sequoia and test about 10 of those targets and the geophysics. And I'll be very surprised if we don't come up with more kimberlites. And so at the end of this season, we'll have an idea. We'll have an idea how big Sequoia is. Drilling supporting that gravity signature, does it represent the kimberlite? We'll have a first look at its possible tons and an idea of a grade distribution within it. And it'll be all set up to bulk sample in 2023, most likely with large diameter RC drilling. We'll hopefully have new kimberlites waiting on diamond results. Many of them are diamondiferous, obviously, they come into play. So onto the Timantti project. It's still a very exciting project, as I said, delayed somewhat by the pandemic and the bad diamond market, to be honest. You know, it was very hard to raise money at the beginning of the pandemic. This project sits on the Karelian Craton, which also hosts diamond mines in Russia. So it's a known diamondiferous craton. The blue diamond, the purple diamonds are known kimberlites, and you can see the location of our best discovery so far there, the Wolf kimberlite. I'm not sure it's a pipe, should change that. The Wolf kimberlite. So you can see the township of Kusamo. It's all very civilized. You can tarmac roads everywhere. You can actually catch a bus to our kimberlite park from the airport. It's a great infrastructure, and Finland's known as one of the better countries to do mineral exploration in. Our exploration permit there come up for its renewal. We applied for renewal in February, and the government's been slow in giving the renewal. So until we get the renewal, we can't get a drilling permit. That suits us at the moment. I plan to drill next winter when it's the least environmentally impactful. You're on the snow, you're not tearing up dirt forestry tracks. And so we plan to get back there in next winter and start getting things moving in summer after we finish the Diagras program. We recently announced, so what happened in the pandemic, we ran out of money. I had to let all the Finnish staff go. There's a cost to doing that. So our sample was in a storage in the middle of the bush in south of Kuusamo, and we couldn't get at it. And so as soon as I could fly there, I flew there, we recovered the sample. All the seals are intact, got them to the lab, and it came back nicely diamondiferous, so another feather in the cap for this project. So that's the permit under renewal. We also have the permit to the south. You can see where we fit kimberlites there. I think a better image is coming up, so I'll talk to that more. There's the white wolf kimberlite, the one we've got the best results using those same curves. It looks like a carat a ton. Kahu comes in quite nicely as well. And all the kimberlites we've hit up there have been interestingly, they've all contained diamonds, which is great. Yeah, so in my slides, I have more images. But anyway, we're now thinking, learning from our own lessons at Diagra, White Wolf the walls were drilled as pipes. And but we now think there was one hole that suggests that it's a dipping 30-meter thick dipping sill, dipping to the north. And we need to go back there and drill it as a dipping sill and see if that's correct. If it's a dipping sill, the tons start to really add up. If it's a pipe, it's a very small pipe, and we think the market recognizes that, and that's why Timantti hasn't done very well. I would also, I've been greatly keen to fly EM up there. It's very much like Canada, Finland. It's glaciated terrain. And so far, all the kimberlites we found are on hills, whereas my entire experience in glaciated terrain in Canada is that pipes are in lakes. Why? Because they're softer than the surrounding country rock, and the glaciers gouge them out. And then when the glaciers retreat, they fill up with water. There has been no lake exploration in this area. I want to fly EM. If there's any EM in the lakes, I'll be very excited. And when we do find kimberlites on hills in Canada, they tend to be small dikes, and that's why they're on the hill. The glacier couldn't get into the small dike and gouge it and make a lake. So I'm still very keen to get drilling back there to see if the wolf pipes, which occur close to each other, I now think they're the same sill, faulted up a bit, and dipping to the north, and it's a thick sill. So sills are mined around the world, most famously in Canada, Snap Lake, but it was only in 1.5 meters, and it was in the middle of nowhere. This one you can catch a taxi to, and it's 30 meters thick. So we need to show that, but we'll get a drill out there, see if that's the case. And also I'd like to fly Geophysics to look for hopefully bigger kimberlites in the valleys, which we haven't explored. So that's Finland. And then the final project we have in our portfolio, it's a great project, Stein. It's in Boothia Peninsula. Do we have anything? Yeah, there we go. That's where it is. You can see the map of Canada there. It's on peninsula that we would base out of the nearby village there, and GGL plan to next step is to drill this. They are waiting on permitting in Nunavut. And as soon as that comes through, we hope they'll raise some money and drill. If they don't work on it, the project comes back to us. We would plan to work on it if it comes back to us. That's it, those guys. And I'll finish there. yeah, we are raising money to fund this year's program. We closed the first tranche. That's allowed us to get going.
Second will be probably closed next week, and then we'll wrap it up with whatever the last bit. It's only flow through left, so we've oversubscribed the hard dollars, strangely enough, but that's kind of a good thing. So yeah, we're going well. It's a better environment. It's a really good environment for us at the moment. So,
Any questions?
So there is a lot of questions here from Jane. So we'll get started on them. And now they came in during the presentation, so you may have answered them already, but I'll go ahead with them. So the first one, do you have diamond grades, sizes, and types, type 1 and 2? And this is in order, so in Diagras, I guess.
No, we will get all that when we take the ideally greater than 1,000 carat bulk sample. That's when you get that information. We have asked SRC to do IR spectroscopy on our diamonds, but their machine has been broken and suffers from waiting on a chip from Taiwan. A story we hear from lots of walks of life. As soon as that comes in, we'll see if we've got type 2s in our micro diamonds. Again, whether that translates to the bigger stones or not. If we don't have any, I'm not worried. But if they are all type 2s, that would tell us something. It's just so everyone knows, the really big plus 50 carat clear stones, almost always type 2s, which means there's no nitrogen in them. They're very pure carbon. And I suspect we might get some, and I'd like to have the results. Just waiting on SRC to get back in order. But that really doesn't tell you anything. I've got to be truthful. It tells you what your micro diamonds are. We're yet to go the diamond exploration stage. Is it diamondiferous or not? Then you at some stage you have to take a bulk sample, and that's a big quantum leap in expenditure, and not without its risk. If the diamonds aren't good, you've spent that money. If the diamonds are great, fantastic. We try and get all the signs we can to give you encouragement to move ahead, and that's what we're doing. The recovery efficiencies.
Yeah, so
the cause of diamond mine failure. What are you going to do?
So I'll just read it if you like. Recovery efficiencies has been a cause of diamond mine failure. Why are you going to succeed?
I'd like to know which one failed totally. It has definitely caused problems, but it's usually recognize it and you fix it. There has been some diamond bankruptcies during the pandemic. In particular, we saw Stornoway close at Renard. We saw Firestone in Lesotho close. And we saw Dominion going into trouble and to re-emerge as Canadian Arctic Diamond. Those things, I would say that 43-101 overvalued the diamonds. They had relatively small diamond parcels, and they projected the diamond quality into larger stone space where they didn't have examples. And I got to say that probably didn't transpire when they actually started mining. People seem to be predicting $130 a carat in this case of Firestone, and their actual was 76, and that really affects your economics. That particular case might have something to do with recovery, but this new XRT technology, which we would intend to use, would make sure you recover the biggest, more valuable stones.
No breaking.
With minimum breakage. But yeah, these are all definite considerations. For the grade, for predicting grade, I always predict about 85% recovery to be conservative. But when you run the diamonds through a plant, a bulk sample plant, it does emulate what you'll use to recover the diamonds when you mine them. And you get a lot of information from that. And we're going to do that work in 2023, as long as we get the good news from this work and funding.
So next one here, not all kimberlites are diamondiferous. What else encouraged you to go back?
Diamonds.
We had diamonds
That's easy as that.
in all pipes. And Sequoia is large tonnage and it's got the right chemistry,
Yeah, if they've got no diamonds, it's hard
Yeah.
to keep going.
you know.
And what is the density of the kimberlites? Are you using DMS?
we at the moment, our diamond results are based on caustic fusion. They're from small drill holes. And that's the reason we use micro diamonds, because the sample just isn't big enough to see the population. But what's interesting, when almost every pipe I've ever seen, data from every seen, you can get the commercial size stone curve and they match with the micro diamond curve. It was fact, the idea that the commercial stones formed a curve that came up with the idea of extending that curve backwards and using micro diamonds as an exploration tool. It didn't happen the other way around, is my understanding. It happened because we the industry saw commercial stones form a size frequency curve, that the idea came up that you can use the smaller diamonds to early predict, is this pipe interesting or not? And so that work started in the 70s and has progressed, and I've never seen it fail. As long as you've got enough data, it works. And if it isn't going to work, you don't get a smooth curve. So it tells you it's not working. So I think it's a very powerful tool. And I've seen, evaluated hundreds of kimberlites using it. Next.
Yeah, so next question, have you looked at the economics of processing?
Yeah, this is all, we have to, this all comes after the bulk sample. But I got to say, I've been involved in other commodities. I use gold as an example. And my rule of thumb there is when I see a junior, and I had a junior gold company in Brazil with a 1.5 million ounces plus or minus. And it costs you to get to decision to mine about 30 million US per million ounces if you're good. I would argue I can get there with diamonds for about 12 million, 10 million, including what we've spent already. So the next step is a 5 to 6 million US step. We have to budget it properly, and with all the costs changing all the time, especially fuel, we have to cost it closer to the day. Hopefully fuel's cheaper, but it's something I've done many times before. And once you've done that, you've done most of the work to do a pre-fees, and you only need a little bit more work to do a fees. So you have this great quantum leap in diamonds that gets you to that decision point quickly. But the three key things is the tonnage. That's easy in kimberlite. It's kimberlite or not, you get the tonnage.
Mm-hmm.
But the different types of kimberlite and that tonnage is important too, because they'll have different grades. And that's tonnage is easy. Where gold, it's really hard. Then grade is relatively easy. And then the other really hard thing is price. You need a lot. I think the lessons from these bankruptcies during the downturn is that they didn't get their price right. And they tried to cut a corner by taking too small samples and then projecting them into bigger stone space. I think you've got to take a sample that goes out there and grab some of those bigger stones to make sure you've got them. Or just use the average stone value you get, don't project it. And if your mind works on that average stone value, if you get the bigger stones, it's cream on top. It's got to be able to run on that average value.
Yeah.
The SFD is all based on micros. Did you cover any macros?
Yeah, the CIM definition, Canadian Institute of Metallurgy, is 0.8 millimeters for a commercial size stone. And I understand the definition for macro is 0.5 millimeters. It varies around the world. So assuming that's what you mean, greater than 0.5, you can go back to our tables. We've got several. We got 3 stones bigger than 0.8, the CIM definition. But that's all we're at. We need to go and take that bigger sample.
This one is, how was the second image generated on slide 11, which I can
Second image.
show here and pull it back up.
Next one. Oh, that's based on airborne data. That's magnetic. Sorry, I should have put that up. It's
The bottom is
dropped off
mag, the
somehow.
top is EM.
Yeah, the top is EM and the bottom is just total field magnetics reduced to the pole.
Perfect. Next question here. Does koala have type 2 diamonds?
I understand that it does.
In one phase.
Yeah.
Have you compared the grade dollars per carat and dollars per ton with Letsang?
Let's say it's a mine that runs on finding one big stone a month. It's very low grade. 0.02 carats a ton. I think 20 carats, 100 tons. And its value is up above 400. I haven't seen public data for a while, but that we're not like Letsang, and I don't really want to be. I'd like to get some of their big stones, but we already will have much higher, a couple of orders magnitude more higher grade than Letsang. Letsang's quite big. We're not that big.
And so these questions are referring to the Finland project. What depth were the diamonds formed at?
In
Finland.
Finland?
Yeah.
From the geotherm, no one smashed the diamonds and looked inside them for minerals yet to really say that. But our indicators suggest the keel is about 200 kilometers down, and the diamond window is from 180 to 200. And we've got diamonds, so I assume the diamonds are coming from that.
Are the Russian diamonds going to be removed from the market?
I think they already have been. Well, at least Rossa is a majority owned by the Russian feds, 40% owned on the Moscow market, and their bank accounts are being frozen. I don't think they can use the Western banking system. So in effect, they've been shut down. Diamonds might leak out, but the Kimberley process should stop that. But I would say they'd leak from China. But yeah, at the moment, we're not seeing that. So I haven't seen the diamond prices since that shutdown. They can only go up. But I'm not counting on that, because hopefully the war is temporary.
What temperatures in Kusama?
What temperatures in Kusama? I mean, climate-wise?
I think,
The
yeah.
lowest temperature is minus 30.
Right. Yeah, it's on the Arctic Circle, but it's that part of Europe's warmed by the Gulf Stream, so it's a bit more livable than the same latitude in Canada. It's got trees. So the same latitude in Canada would be tundra. So yeah, think of far northern Ontario or far northern Alberta, where there's spruce trees. That's what it's like. So 30 degrees in summer, minus 30 in winter.
All right, and then just a few comments from Jane while you were answering. She was just giving some comments. We do have another one from Tamir. What is the cost of each drilling?
Again, that's a bit of a piece of string question. The more drilling we do, the less costly it gets. But the more money you need.
Sequoia will be cheaper because we don't have
We're not helicoptering, so it's very expensive drilling up there because it's helicopter supported. When we're testing geophysical anomalies for kimberlites, exploring, you're drilling through the till, which is often a meter to 30 meters thick, and if you don't hit kimberlite, the drill's finished, and then you move on. So the meterage cost is very expensive because there's so much mobilization.
Yeah.
So the way I think of it up there is it's 12 exploration holes. You're looking at $1.2 million, but that includes the ground geophysics. That's just the whole package. So, and I've been doing it now since 1993, missed 2 years. But every time you go up there, it's $1.2 million and you get about 12 holes done with the geophysics. And amazingly, even with higher helicopter costs, other costs have come down, so it stayed at about 1.2. But with Sequoia drilling, the actual drilling per meter cost we're getting for $100 a meter, but you're supporting it with a helicopter in the middle of the tundra, 360 kilometers north of Yellowknife. We're trying to get everything we can up the Winter Road, but once the Winter Road goes, like now, it's all air supported.
The Sequoia will be cheaper because we don't need a helicopter.
Because you're not moving much, the drilling's going to be a lot cheaper than meter.
All right, well, that's all the questions we have. If anybody else has any, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat. We'll give you a minute there.
So just while we're waiting for that, Colton will be sending out a recording of this event. We encourage you to pass that on to your friends or your enemies. We don't care. Just pass it on to somebody because that's how this public game works. We need more and more people involved, and we need to share the ultimate success that we're going to have with Arctic Star. You need to share it with your friends.
We did have another question while we came in here from Craig. What is the team size?
There's myself and Dave Kelsch. Dave Kelsch used to work with me in Diagras. We work well together. We know how each other think. So Dave's actually the more hands-on guy, nitty-gritty of running the daily exploration. And we're using, like many juniors, we use consultants. So we're using Aurora, a well-established, the Yellowknife geological consulting firm. And I worked with them way back in 1994. So, we know them well. They did last year's program because we couldn't get up there without 2 weeks quarantine. And that's lifted, but still if someone's on your plane that's got COVID, that you quarantine for 2 weeks.
One of the good things about Buddy and I, we've known everyone for 30 some odd years. So
Yeah,
we get like a Chuck Fipke, who's a buddy of ours who helps us out in the geochemistry part of it. And we kind of have access to anyone who's anybody in the diamond world.
So at the height of the camp, we'll have 23 people in there, but the first people to leave will be the airborne, and then it'll drop down to about 16. And then it'll sit at about 16. So that's, and I will be going up and spending a couple of weeks there. But the program should go from, hopefully the drill starts first week April, and it'll finish sometime late May.
Great, you answered Craig's next question. One in from Christian, will feasibility study happen in 2023, or is that dependent on this year's drilling?
Yeah, if we get shitty results, we're not going to go and spend $5 million. I'm not expecting to get, the two holes had very similar diamond counts and they were a long way apart. In the far south of the complex, I expect a different type of geology where they were with the jack pine part of the complex. I actually think this is, what Diavik and Akadi had, the mine complexes tend to be based on a bunch of kimberlites that were close together. And at Diavik, one of the kimberlites we had, A154 South, had erupted into the crater of A154 North and filled up the top of it. And I actually feel like jack pine is like the Diavik cluster, but maybe 100 meters, 50 meters less eroded. So all the little pipes coalesce into one big thing. So I expect what we're going to find is a trough of kimberlite, and then with pipes coming out the base of that trough, maybe 3 or 4 jack pine being fourth and 3 more other than that, based on the geophysics. But the drill will tell. That's what I imagine is there at the moment, but the drill will tell. And
just, it looks like Sequoia is by far the biggest pipe up there, right?
It by area, yes. We'll have to, the drilling will show if it's up there with times, but the biggest ones mined at the moment are Fox and Leslie.
Sure. 400 meters would be the biggest one.
I think 4 hectares. My memory's been working pretty good.
All right. That's all we got.
All right, folks, thanks for coming. It's been a pleasure having you here in the Zimtu boardroom. Would like to thank Pat Power and Buddy Doyle for their presentation. Have a nice day.